Hello everyone, welcome to Enviro Pioneers. This video is continuation of our last topic, visual interpretation of the images. So when we acquire the remote sensing data through the aerial photography or with the help of the sensor, the image which we get has a completely different perspective from our normal understanding of the features on the earth. So, for interpretation of such images, there are certain elements which have been developed with time and are utilized in remote sensing and GIS for identifying and differentiating different features or different objects on the aerial images or on the satellite images. Image interpretation is a broader term for the techniques and the method which enable us to identify and distinguish various features, either man-made features or the natural features in the remote sensing images. So image interpretation, it includes the use of certain image attributes along with the knowledge of the objects and the condition imaged. So these features means these natural or the man-made features are identified by the way they reflect or emit radiations and also by their association and location. So recognizing the differences between the features and its background, it is generally based on some of the visual interpretation keys like the shape, size, pattern, tone, texture, shadow and association, and these keys are also referred as the visual interpretation elements. Any image, it is made up of pixels and each individual pixel have a unique color or tone at a particular location. So this tone or color, it is the fundamental building block upon which all other elements are based. So this tone or color, it is referred as the primary or the first order elements of the image interpretation, and the spatial arrangement of the tone or color, it is the basis of other elements which are referred as the secondary and the tertiary elements of the image interpretation, and it include size, shape, texture, pattern and shadow. And then there are higher order elements which are based on different methods of search, which include the use of the collateral information or use of the multi-concept, and it includes the site and association. So we will see all these elements one by one in detail. Apart from all other elements required for the visual interpretation, location is also one of the basic element in the image analysis, because this gives us idea about the geographical location on the earth, and it includes the latitude and longitude. During the remote sensing data acquisition, most of the aircraft or the spacecraft, they carry GPS receiver, and this receive the information about XYZ coordinate accurately at each photograph station in case of the aerial photography, and the center of each line scan when we are using the sensor. So this GPS receiver, it collect the geographical attributes of that particular satellite imagery. So the first element or the primary element of image interpretation is the tone. It refers to the color or relative brightness of the object in case of the color image, or the relative and the quantitative shades of the gray in the black and white image. So this tone, it measures the intensity of the reflected or the emitted radiation of the object in the terrain, and this intensity, it depends upon the reflection, transmission or the absorption characteristics of the objects. So this tone, it may vary from one object to another. As we can see here that at some places we are having the whiter tone, at some places we are having the black, and most of the places are having the different shades of the gray. So this tone, it may vary from one object to another as well as from one band to another. Different features on Earth, they vary in their spectral response across the different wavelength range, and that lead to the variation in the tone from one band to another. So tone is the fundamental element for differentiating the different targets or the features, and different other elements like the shape, pattern and the texture on any image. These are identifiable mainly because of the tonal variation. So here we have the satellite image of an area in the grayscale as well as first color composite in the NIR red and green combination. So we can see the tonal variation in the grayscale. At some places we are having the strong reflectance which are visible to us in the whiter shades, and at some places we are having the black lines, and in the intermediate we are having the different shades of gray. So identification of different features on the gray scale is little difficult because on the basis of reflectance, these two features where we are having the white color, these two look similar. But this interpretation, it becomes easier when we observe them in the FCC, because when we have the NIR red and green combination in the FCC, we can see that this stronger white reflectance, it was mainly because of the vegetation, and this white color, it is mainly because of the sediment deposition along the river. So in FCC, identification of different features, it becomes little easier in comparison to the grayscale. Next element is shape. It refers to general form, configuration or outline of an individual object, and it is most important single factor for recognizing the object from an image. In general, the man-made features or the man-made objects like the building, road or the agricultural fields, they have a regular or the geometrical shape. It may be in the form of a square or rectangles or circles, while the natural features like the river or the forest, they have the irregular shape. They do not have any distinct geometrical pattern. So in the man-made features also, there is chance of a misinterpretation, because if there is any road or the train line, it will look straight. But in the case of the roads, it may have the sharp turns which are joined perpendicularly. But the railway lines do not have the perpendicular interconnection in between. Here we have some examples to understand this particular element. This first image, it shows the irregular shape of a river with the tributaries in the adjacent area. The second image, it represents a settlement area where we can see lot of buildings with the interconnected roads. And then third is the example to represent the agriculture field where we can see lot of rectangular patches which are spatially arranged. While fourth is we have the combination of both, where we have the forest area which is a natural feature, while in the surrounding we are having the agriculture fields. So the forest area is having the irregular shape which has been cleared to convert it into the rangeland. So this difference, that the natural feature is having the irregular shape while the man-made feature is having the regular shape. So on the basis of the shape, we can identify whether it is a natural feature or the man-made feature. So within shape, the next element, that is size, it is important in identifying one feature from the another. So the size of the object, it is the function of scale, and it must be considered in the context of the scale of the photograph or the image. And the most measured parameters within size are the length, width, perimeter and area, and sometimes the volume also. Size of an object can be an important tool for its identification, because the size of the object or the feature, it is relative in relation to the other objects on the image. So this is the most direct and important function of size, because by comparing the size of two objects or the two features, we can clearly distinguish them from one another. And then second is the absolute measurement. In GIS, we have this facility to calculate the length, width or the perimeter of a particular feature. Suppose if you have to distinguish zones of land use and you have identified an area with a number of buildings in it. So the large buildings such as the factories or the warehouse in the image would suggest the commercial property, while the small buildings would indicate the residential use. So we can see this in this particular image. Here we are having the settlement area. So on the basis of the shape and size, we can identify that this is the man-made feature, and on the basis of size we can see that this particular area, it is the residential area, but here we are having a different shape. So at particular location we can say that this particular building, it is not a residential area, it may be a mall or it may be any other complex. So shape and size both can be utilized together to understand about the features. For example, here we are having a straight line. So this can be a rail network because we are not having the interconnection in between. So if we see here in this part, there are 5 more structures or features which are similar to this particular feature. So either it is a rail network or road network or something else, we can take the help of the surrounding. So there is possibility that this is a bridge because here we are having the road networks. So it may be the bridges which are connected to the roads in the adjacent areas. In this aerial image, we can see that stadium has a circular shape and there are many buildings in the surrounding area which are having the different shape and size. Here we can say that this may be a residential area. Here we are having the different length of the building. So now the size factor. So here we can see that there are many vehicles parked in this parking area. So if we know the approximate dimension of a car, so we can calculate the number of vehicles which are parked here, and on the basis of this we can calculate the approximate size of this particular building. So this is one thing, that on the basis of the size of one object that we can identify, we are calculating the relative size of the next object. And the second method is we can utilize the GIS tool to calculate the length or the width of this particular feature, and on the basis of that, perimeter and the area can be calculated. In this FCC image, wherever we are having the dark blue or the blue color, that represent the water bodies or the surface water reservoir. So on the basis of shape, we can say that these are the natural surface water reservoirs. But now the next element, that is size. So on the basis of size, we can say that within this particular feature, we are having here we are having the small surface water reservoir, here it is large, and then again here we are having the larger surface water reservoir. So on the basis of size, we can have a comparative idea of the different features. Next element is pattern. Pattern, it refers to the spatial arrangement of the objects and the repetition of certain general form or the relationship in tones and the texture. It creates a pattern which is characteristics of this particular element in the image interpretation. Both natural and the man-made objects, they have the pattern and it helps in their recognition in the satellite or the aerial imagery. For example, the rural or the urban settlement area, they can be easily identified on the images based on the patterns which are created by the rows of the houses or the buildings. Likewise, the drainage pattern, it is mainly unique for a particular area because of the underlying lithology structure or the soil texture or the hydrological characteristics of the ground. Here we can see two distinct patterns. At this particular part, we can see the houses or the buildings arranged in a particular manner with the interconnected roads. While here we are having some objects which are spatially aligned in a particular manner. In this aerial image, on the basis of the shape and size, we can say that this is the settlement, and most of the places are having the residential area. But on the basis of pattern, we can say that this is a properly developed society, while this may be a slum or poorly developed area, because here we are not having a distinct pattern. This is the settlement area, but we are not having the interconnected roads in this particular part. So this much area, it is entirely different from rest of the places. So on the basis of pattern, we can identify two different or two distinct features within a particular satellite imagery or the aerial imagery. Here we have few more examples. In this FCC, we can see the pattern of the agriculture field because lot of agriculture plots are spatially arranged in together, and at some places we are having the crops grown, and at some places it is vacant agriculture field. And then here we can see the pattern of the river in this particular stretch. We can observe lot of meandering here. We have a tributary, lot of oxbow lake and the geomorphological feature in its adjacent area. Here in this image, it is having a distinct uh, drainage network with the lot of tributaries and the main river merging into the sea or the ocean. So this is a delta area where we are having the lot of tributaries, so creating a distinct pattern here. The next element is texture, which refers to the frequency of the tonal variation, that is, the frequency of change and the arrangement of the tones in a particular area or image, and is produced by the aggregate of unit features which are too small to be clearly recognized individually on an image. And this texture is an expression of the roughness and the smoothness. The texture, it depends on the shape, size, pattern and the shadow of the terrain feature, and like size, texture is also scale or the resolution dependent. And the abrupt changes in the gray scale, it results in the rough texture, while if there is very minor tonal variation, it will be seen as the smooth texture. It is mentioned here that the same reflected objects may have the difference in texture which helps in their identification. So if we see in this FCC image, here all the red color, it is the representation of vegetation. But here we can see that this particular part is having the smooth texture while this one is having the coarse texture. So this smooth reflectance, it may be because of the higher reflectance in the NIR, and which may be because of the healthy vegetation or the dense canopy in this area, and this part is having the coarse texture which may be because of the variation in the intensity of the reflected signal received by the sensor. So if there is very minor difference in the tonal variation, it will result in the smooth texture, while if there is major difference, it will result in the coarse. Next element is shadow. It refers to the dark area which is produced by the features coming between the light rays and the surface. And this shadow, it is having the both advantage as well as disadvantage at the same time. Advantage is mainly because it provides relative height information of the feature and idea of the terrain profile, while the disadvantage is that features which are under shadow, they are not identifiable. In this image, this patch of vegetation, it may appear as bush, but the shadow created by them uh, indicates that these are the trees, and the difference in the shadow may be used to get an idea about the different height of these trees. Similarly, here we have the two shadows created by these buildings. So the length of the shadow, it represents the height of the building. For example, here we are having the long shadow. So this is the high-rise building, while here we are having the short shadow, which is created by the low-rise building. So this shadow, it is useful for enhancing or identifying the topography and the landforms, particularly in the radar imagery. You must have came across this beautiful image on the social media, which is a vertically taken aerial photograph. So in this aerial view, the identification of this image, it is little difficult. But with the help of shadow, we can say that these are the camels which are crossing a desert area. So here we have two more examples. In this image, we are having the lot of buildings, but the place where we are having the shadows, so that particular location are having the heighted buildings. Similarly, in this image, we can see that there are few shadows which indicate that at this particular place there must be something heighted. Next element is association, which is occurrence of certain feature in relation with the other. Some of the features they are not directly identifiable by its appearance, but they could be interpreted easily according to the its relationship with the surrounding. For example, association of boats with the water, aircraft with the runway, playground with the school. Here we have this cyan color in the FCC. So this cyan color, it may be the settlement or it may be barren area, but as this is near to the ocean, there is possibility that these may be the salt pans where we fill the saline water for evaporation for the salt formation. Similarly, in this false color composite, the association of this white patch along the river, it may be attributed to the sand deposition or the sediment deposition along the path of the river. Similarly, in this image, these objects, these are the ships, and they can be identified on the basis of their association with the water and the coastal area. The last element is site, and it refers to topographic or the geographic location which may be collected from the secondary data and is also very important element in the image interpretation when objects are not clearly identified using the previous elements. For example, if we are having very high reflectance feature in the Himalayan valley, it may be because of the snow or cloud. But if it is in Kerala, we cannot say that it is snow. So the information about the topography or the geographic location, it helps us in identifying the different reflectance variation on the images. Let us take a brief of all the elements in interpretation of the satellite imagery. Here I have taken the spectral bands of 10-meter spatial resolution of the Sentinel-2 data. So this is the NIR band. So the first element is tone. So tone is basically the variation in the black and white or the gray scale. So this variation in the gray scale, it refers to tone, and in the false color composite image of the same satellite imagery, this color variation, it is referred as the tone. Information about location we automatically get when we download the data because it is having its geographical location. So when we move the cursor, we will get the coordinate value. So location and tone we saw. Then third is the shape. So here we can see that this is the river. It is having the irregular shape, while in this part we can see that this is the canal. So this is having somewhat regular shape. Similarly, here also we are having a one river. This part is the barren area. This is also one of the natural feature because it is having the irregular shape. Then if we zoom in into the settlement part, here we can see that this is having somewhat geometrical shape with the interconnected roads. Then coming to the size, here we can see we are having the lot of water bodies, and on the basis of size we can compare the different surface water reservoirs. Then we read about the pattern. So here we can see that this particular area is having the pattern of the agriculture field. Likewise, if we move to other place, this settlement area is having a distinct pattern, having the rows of the houses along with the interconnected roads. Likewise, in the other part, again here we are having the agriculture fields. So the repetition of the features on the image that create a particular pattern. Next is texture, and this texture and the size, these are the scale dependent or the resolution dependent. As we can see here, the size of the individual field, it is very small, and the core texture is very coarse. But if we zoom in into a particular area, for example, here I am zooming in. So now we can see the actual size of the agricultural plot, and within this particular area, now this one is having very fine texture, while this one is having the coarse texture. This part is having the coarse texture. So wherever we are having the bright reflectance, at that particular location we are having the smooth texture. And the last element which we are going to see is the association. So in this part, if we see that here we are having the wider river, but this narrow down in the lower stream. So we can see here, if we zoom in, so we can see that there we have one structure. So this structure, because it is having the association with the river, we can say that this particular structure is a dam. And then from the upstream we are having a particular tributary. So this is not a natural river, but because from the upstream a river channel has been created, it means it is contributing to a canal. So with the help of the association, we can identify the different features within a particular area. These are the references from where the content of this video has been taken. I have referred to the chapter Elements of Visual Image Interpretation in the book Remote Sensing of Environment by John R. Jensen. Along with this, I have taken the help of these few PDFs which are available on the site, and the link of each of these sites I will also mention in the description box. Thank you for your support. We will meet soon in the next video. Thank you.